of the universe think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That genius was Nikola Tesla. And ever since then, science has confirmed that everything that happens and everything in existence has a frequency. Think of it as when you're driving to work. Millions of people are driving to work every day and they switch on a radio. If you don't like the song, you change the frequency and the song changes. And what happens is this isn't really limited to the radio. It also is applicable to all organisms in health. Our body operates on the same principle of frequencies, and we actually have the power to change our frequency in the same way. Now, everything on this planet, there are plants, animals, water, microorganisms, viruses, bacteria, all of them interact with each other by receiving, producing and emitting some form of energy. And all that energy operates on a frequency. Our organs, tissues, cells, even to a surprise, even our emotions have their own emotional frequency. And today on the podcast, I've got two special people who are going to talk to us about frequencies and how to hack your body's frequency. Today on the podcast, please welcome Colette Schnabel and Jenny Lay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Did I pronounce your guys' name right?
Surprisingly, you did it perfect. No one normally gets it right from me, but yeah, great job.
Okay, I was thinking of asking you this offline before, but I almost forgot. But okay, I'm happy that I did a good job. Now, tell me, how did you guys get into frequency? I want to know your backstory. So any one of you can start, and let's hear your backstory.
Yeah, totally. So I got into frequencies almost a year ago, October 26th, a year ago. And it was a mentor who reached out to me. I have been in the health and wellness field now for a little over 5 years. And she and I have been working together for that same amount of time. And she knew that since I had my son, I was living in chronic pain. And it was always manifesting on my right side. And so she knew and educated me when she found out about Healy, about how blockages, whether it be physical trauma or emotional trauma, can manifest within your body. And these aren't things that I was aware of or that I grew up knowing. Um, but prior to, like, when I had my son, this was already 3 years in. I was living in this chronic pain, and I was seeing, chiropractor, acupuncturists, trying all I could with natural health care. I was seeing another doctor. He was trying to figure out what was going on. And when she told me, I'm like, I will do anything, to try to figure out, what's going on within me. I knew nothing of frequencies. It's not how I grew up. I grew up
Mhm.
thinking that we are just a physical body, skin, bones, blood, and that was it. And so when she told me, I said, absolutely, I'll try this. I'll try anything. I was already spending thousands of dollars on alternative care. And so when the frequency device came to me, immediately I felt the physical change. Because what we are dealing with, it is a medical device, and so I felt the physical relief straight away. um, and then as you continue and you start diving into the world of frequencies, when I felt the physical change, I'm like, okay, there has to be something going on. So I just dove in head first. I'm like, how do I not know about this? How do I not know, or how come everybody doesn't know that there is an alternative way to help optimize your body to be living in a limitless, like a fulfilled life, and
Mhm.
pain free. So yeah, I dove in head first and I started educating myself, and it was like, I'm like, how have I been living? How have I not known? So the physical change for me was what I saw immediately. And then they say, people who are not familiar with frequencies, they'll have more blockages, more walls put up before those can be torn down, and they start to feel the mental blockages removed. So I want to say, about 3 months in, to using frequencies, I started to notice a mental block, a change within my own personal self, a change, within the belief of who I thought that I was. And from there, it's just been up, up the whole way since then.
Hmm.
And then it's just become a passion of mine to educate people on that there's a whole other side that a lot of us didn't grow up knowing, and that's what drives me. So to educate people more on how powerful frequencies are.
Well, thanks for sharing your story. And it's very classic because in our education system, all we get to know about is like we're chemical based bodies living in this giant meat suit, uh, going from day to day, and anything that cannot be seen or touched doesn't exist. But surprisingly, when people like yourself and everyone else dives into something like this, and like you mentioned, you open up the channels with the thought and the belief process, then energy starts and frequency starts moving more easily, and you start feeling more of the benefits. So that's a great story. Jenny, what about you? How did you get into this?
Well, I did learn about this particular frequency device from Colette.
Hmm.
Actually, it was a gift. It was a surprise from my husband. Purchased it for me for Christmas, and I wasn't really interested. Didn't really open it. Like Colette had mentioned to you earlier, we do have children. I have two small children, and I was going through some postpartum issues at the beginning of this year. Um, and Colette says, why don't you just open the Healy? Use the Healy. You've got this tool. It can
Hmm.
help. Um, I was, okay, I'll open it. So I opened it. I jumped on a couple of calls with the founder, was doing a webinar. Um, Once I realized the science and technology behind it, and it's something that I've studied for a long time, quantum physics. So it was right up my alley from the beginning, and I just didn't realize it. And as soon as I did, um, it wasn't. I mean, I was full force. I realized. I mean, obviously, I didn't know that this kind of device was available. Not even the parent company Time Waver, which is a much larger machine. I had no idea that that existed either. And because of the blockages that we have in pharmaceuticals and in the education system today, like you mentioned, CJ, the education is just not there and nobody knows about it. And I was really angered. I was angered by that. And I would cry. I would cry at how angry I was that people didn't know about this. And so, that became my mission to bring this to people who need it. It's such a beautiful tool, and it's like having a little nurse in your pocket, something that can really break down barriers and remove blockages, and yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Is like Colette said, is the education and our mission to bring it to the world, which is why we created our own company within it called Biohacking with Frequencies. We've always been biohackers.
Hmm.
That's um, as humanity, we are always looking for ways to support our bodies and our beings. And this is the ultimate biohacking tool. It's a beautiful tool, and everyone deserves to have access to it.
Okay, I really appreciate and I'm grateful that you guys took a step in this direction where you're heading towards educating other people, because I think more of that is needed, especially now in times of what's going on in the world right now. And you started your own company, and you're not just providing the education but the tool by itself. So thank you for that. Now, it's interesting you mentioned quantum physics, because I think a lot of the things that our woo woo lie in the quantum area, and it's our ability to not understand what's going on that we completely ignore it. So, we spoke about frequencies, and to be honest, a lot of people, I believe, don't even really know what frequencies is. like according to me, if someone would have asked me what's a frequency, I would say it's an electronic pulse or a sound pulse or a wave that's produced. But I know my definition of frequency doesn't even scratch the surface of it. So I'd like to know from any of you, like, what are your takes on what is frequency?
I would love to just touch quickly on what you would tell somebody who has no idea, and like how
Mhm,
I've explained it, to family or like I say, people who like who I was before.
mhm,
Because very much of my upbringing, it does sound very woo, like you say, but
mhm,
science has proven and that frequencies are real and they're measurable. But a good way to describe it to somebody who needs more of a connection piece. So think like when you're walking down the street and somebody walks by and they have on like either they have a beautiful pheromones or they have a
mhm,
beautiful cologne perfume on. Oh, you smell that? It smells good. Or you walk by the street and you might step in dog feces. You're like, oh,
mhm,
these are different things that are resonating through your senses. Those are all frequencies. Frequencies come in everything because we are all energy, whether that is sound, music that you listen to. You might resonate more with a different genre of music than me. We have binaural beats that some of us are aware of now, different things on YouTube you can follow. Or, scents, those smells, those trigger things. Colors as well. There's a reason why a lot of fast food companies use specific colors because those colors trigger different things within inside us. These are all different ways that frequencies resonate within us. So
mhm.
that to me was an easy way to comprehend and understand what a resonant frequency is. Jenny's very good at explaining about it a bit little more when you get technical, but that is my gist of how to explain to a layman who is new to frequencies.
Jenny, what's your take on it?
Well,
I've
every
heard like let's hear yours.
like you mentioned, everything is frequency. Everything gives off a very specific frequency, and us as humans, we are very limited in um, what we can see, even the frequencies of colors that we're able to see. The number, we only have three cones in our eyes, so we only have a certain spectrum that we're able to see. Other animals have a fourth cone, so they can see ultraviolet light, which is,
Mhm,
all of these are frequencies. If we had the ability to see energy and frequency, you wouldn't see the mass that we are. You would just see walls of chaotic energy passing around. um, but because of how we view the world and what we're capable of seeing, we see the lower frequency, which becomes the more solid matter that you see is just resonating at a lower frequency.
mhm,
So, that being said, every cell within our body gives off a very specific frequency. Every tiny cell is like its own little universe. We're made up of trillions of cells. Within one cell is a million electrons, right? So, once you start to think about it like that, there's a lot of information that we are constantly putting out and being given from all areas.
mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's.
love that. Love that explanation. Thank you, both of you. And for the people who are listening to this, and you guys have probably learned some high school science, and you consider yourselves like logical thinkers, and probably don't really understand frequency. They both have explained it really well. And think about it this way, right? What's one of the oldest equations that we learn in school? E equals mc square. Now, Einstein made this equation, and when you break that down itself, you have E, which is the energy, you have M, which is the mass, and you have C2, which is the speed of light that is squared, which is a right factor to make both mass and energy. And what is it? It is a frequency. Everything, even in that equation, was a frequency. Now, the frequency you mentioned correctly can be in our cells, but the Earth by itself has a frequency too. And when you consider that sort of frequency, it is very, or I would say extremely low level, or ELF kind of a frequency, which also contributes to the Earth's electromagnetic field.
Mhm.
And the way it works is that we have lightning strikes, so many lightning strikes throughout the day. Like every second, I think it's about 100 lightning strikes. And those lightning strikes are very powerful. They have about 50 million volts of energy inside. And for those of you who are listening and you want to get your idea around what is 15 million watts, then think about it this way: when one lightning hits the planet, the surrounding air around that area can heat up to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is as, or even 5 times as much as the sun's surface. That is how hot it could get. So we're talking about lots of energy. And you hear about people who have got hit by lightning and that's changed their life. By the way, I know one of them, and it's completely changed their life. So we're talking about all these lightning strikes. And what happens is, in the 50s, there was a physicist who sort of made a mathematical calculation on all of these strikes, and he figured out that the Earth vibrates at a frequency or a resonance itself. That today is called the Schumann resonance. And it could be anywhere between from 3 degrees to 60 degrees, but is generally accepted at 7.83 hertz. Now, one of the reasons I personally, everywhere I go, especially after flights, I remove my shoes and walk on the ground or find a beach or an open body of water to swim in, is because I wanted to tap into that Earth's electromagnetic field and sort of like readjust all my cells to vibrate or oscillate at that field. Now, do you think that we have even more fields, or we function better at 7.83 hertz? Because with the Healy device, you're talking about so many different frequencies and so many different vibrations. So has science taught us that there are more frequencies that can, help us apart from the Earth's frequency?
Well, when you think about it like that, with all of the energy constantly surrounding us and coming from the earth, you know, you also have to think where we're at today at the toxic levels that we're living in.
Mhm.
So you had mentioned before our biochemical suits. We're really just walking around with, toxic suits on. So, grounding is fantastic. Everybody should get grounded, walk barefoot on the earth, and really connect that way. Um, but when we're talking about like the toxicity as well, that's when it's very important to bring these frequencies into your life that's going to continue to raise your vibration, because within your body everything works cohesively, everything is coherent. The one organ doesn't know that, oh, I'm this organ and not this other organ, right? Everything just works perfectly together. And
Mhm.
but when, as we're becoming more and more toxic, and our cells start to lower in its vibration, that it's, we have, every cell has a potential that it needs to resonate at. So when you talk about the voltage potential, once that starts to lower, then the rest of the body is not functioning properly. So that's when you start to see, inflammation set in, and sickness, and all of these things in a negative way, because the body is not working coherently as it should. So yes, so then it's very important to bring in the resonant frequencies you need within your body to raise that level back up, to keep that cell voltage potential at a certain level, so we're resonating coherently within our bodies.
Thanks for that. You mentioned about the toxic loads that we are carrying around, and I completely agree that, you know, just eating food with microplastics to smoke, like being in a smoke filled environment, to so many things contribute to the toxin load. But what are some of the other things that people are doing these days that increase that toxic load, or in other words, would increase, or increase the cell membrane voltage, or like, is it decrease the voltage? Because the voltage inside the cell operates on minus milliwatts, right? So if the the higher it goes, is it increasing? I'm confused now.
Well, don't get confused. We don't need to get too scientific about it,
Yeah.
right? It's just, that each cell has a very specific frequency that it's supposed to be
Hmm.
operating at. And once it starts to drop, the ATP production starts to diminish. Once that mitochondria within the cell starts to die off, essentially, then it starts, multiplying in these negative ways. So here we are with a beautiful device that can incorporate frequencies into your body and continue to raise the ATP production within the cell, create amino acid transport, create more protein synthesis, so better communication within the cells. So we can start to break down that toxic barrier that we have around the cell walls and really start to live more coherently within our bodies.
Mhm. I would just like to explain really quick, if people who are listening and the ATP and the mitochondria part just went over your head, then ATP is adenosine triphosphate. It is the original energy currency in our body. So when you think about energy on a cellular terms, you think of ATP. The higher ATP you can generate, the more energy you have lying around in those trillions of cells and, all around the body. And all of our organs are made out of cells. The next thing is mitochondria. The way our cells make energy, make ATP, is by these cellular batteries or organelles. And these are ancient organisms that are still with us, which use light, water, and food that you eat and convert them into electrons. And those electrons are then shuttled in and out to make more ATP or energy. Just wanted to make that clear. So if people who aren't familiar with the terms, they sort of understand. And so we move on to the Healy device, and what it is essentially is a microcurrent therapy treatment, which is also being cleared by the FDA. And well, because FDA is it's all the stories that I've heard, it's really difficult to get things cleared by the FDA, and it could have so many frequencies, and it does a lot of things. But if we rewind back, then microcurrents have been showed in research for a very long time. The year that I was born, 1991, there was the Nobel Prize for medicine and physiology was given to these two guys who looked at how microcurrents can create cell permeability, and that became a big thing. But even before that, there were some studies that have shown that even when you're introducing microcurrents in the cells, then as close to 500 microamps, ATP increases by 500%, protein synthesis increases by 70%, cell membrane transport increases by 40%. And I know this because one of my friends, he's from Belgium. His name is Jack Callis, and they have come up with a microcurrent. They've combined acupuncture, Ayurveda, microcurrent, and 40 years of experience of traveling around the world and doing and healing people into this device, which is called bioenergy stimulation, and that operates on the principles of microcurrent. And I've had them on a podcast. So if anyone who's listening and they wanted to know about that, please go back to the podcast with Jack. But ever since then, you also mentioned there was another device called the time waver, and it does all sorts of things like, restore electrolyte balance, increasing the cell membrane potential. But one of the things I have been talking to Jack about for like a year now is the device costs $60,000, the ones that they do, and it's a medical grade device. And you have to carry it in a briefcase. So I've been telling him that, hey guys, you have to figure out a way to make it smaller. And the way I see it as is that Healy uses also microcurrents, and what you guys have got a head start, and you guys, like, the device is actually smaller. So when did this device come to the market? How did it come through? Is it another edition of the time waver technology? So I wanted to know that.
Yeah. So Healy has only been in the public's hands for a little over 2 years. It actually came out mid pandemic, and when people actually needed it the most. It's only been in the USA since May 2020, and people who need to see what the Healy is. Obviously, look how small
Yeah.
this is. And he was saying, like TJ, you were saying how big the other devices are. So the Healy fits like in the palm of my hand, right? And so that is why the creator, Marcus Schmiecki, he is German, and Healy is a German-made device because he created Time Waver about 1.5 decades ago. And it is a much larger device that is used in hospitals and clinics. And he realized that, we're at a time where humanity needs to have access to frequencies when they're ready, on their terms. And so that's why he created Healy. And yeah, so this is what it's doing and why it's here. And Jenny, if you have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah. So so like Colette said, Time Waver has been around for a long time. CJ, you've always obviously done your research as well. And so the goal was to scale down Time Waver, right? Because Marcus wanted it to be available to raise the conscious collective vibration of humanity. He was, a little background on him. He was a monk for 12 years, turned quantum physicist. So it was his ultimate goal, and a beautiful goal, was to combine, to bridge the gap that we know from spirituality and science, right? And so, insert Time Waver. And then, so from Time Waver, they scaled down the technology for a more portable, wearable, more affordable device. So they were able to take, because Time Waver does require practitioners to use it. And so they were able to take what the practitioners do and put it into AI technology. So now that we have this technology available to us. And yeah, so it's, a microcurrent device, and it can scan your body for the imbalances is what we're doing. We're using, quantum entanglement in the your bioenergetic field, and we're scanning the body for imbalances, and then it offers the frequencies to correct those imbalances. And when
And
I say
how
the
does this?
imbalances,
Yeah, sorry.
the imbalances are, so, like I mentioned, everything within your body gives off a very specific frequency. So we're dealing with resonance, so resonant frequencies. So when you're using a program, it's pushing all of these frequencies through your body, looking for its resonant match. And when it finds a match, it creates resonance and it creates neutrality, so it cancels out. When it doesn't, it essentially bounces back, and so then it creates this individualized program just for you, specifically for those frequencies that it can't find because there's a disruption there. So then that's what we're working with, to remove those blockages, remove the disruptions. And that is basically how it works in a nutshell.
And for those of you who aren't watching this on video right now, the device literally is even, I mean, it's the size of less than the size of my hand. It just, like I mentioned, it can fit in your palm. Both the ladies are wearing it right now. And what kind of attachments do we have on the device? Is it just a chain? I've seen something else as well, if you want to go over that.
Yeah. So initially, Healy comes with a clip. Jenny's wearing a clip on her neck, so it could clip, onto your shirt, onto your belt. Right now, I'm wearing mine like on a lanyard. And there's different applications of how we can use Healy. So, like we said, we spoke about the microcurrent. So you would, like we said, the Healy, for people who aren't watching, people can have the Healy, and there are 2 ports inside that you can plug in electrocords, and those attach to silicone wristbands. You could put them on your wrists, you could put them on your ankles, or you could use like sticky electrodes if it's more of a localized pain. Like, so if you think of like TENS units, those sticker
Yeah.
electrodes, you can use those. But also we have a way where you can go wireless. There's an accessory. We like to call this the Healy coil. And if you can see, I can put it close to the screen here. You can
Yeah.
see there are 2 Tesla coils mocked. They're mocked off Tesla's coils pressed on top of each other. And so then you could, where the cords normally go in, it plugs in straight into the back of the Healy here. And so now this makes your frequencies wireless. You keep this close to your
Interesting.
body. Yes, it's super interesting. You keep it close to your body, and the frequencies are only administered 12 to 16 centimeters. So it's deeply penetrating the body's bioenergetic field. It creates a 0-point vector field, so like a little safety bubble, and so it makes Healy so accessible But the microcurrent, via the wristband or the electrodes, that's really affecting the body cellularly. It's opening up the cell membranes, so your cells are always changing, and so when you are wanting more of a physical, a physical effect, we are definitely going to suggest, using the microcurrent wristbands or the
Hmm.
electrodes.
Okay. And on your website, I saw that you could use the Healy for a number of things. Now, I'm a firm believer that when you increase mitochondrial health, when you increase ATP or energy formation, it overlaps it to so many different things. But for someone who's listening right now, what applications do you have for it? I know there was one for emotional wellness, there was one for health, there was one for job performance, one for learning. And do these have different modes on the Healy? How do you control it? Is it via an app or is it via something else?
It is via an app. So
Hmm.
everything, all of the programs are on your smart device, and then we transfer. Once you select a program, we transfer the frequencies in the program are transferred to the device, and then it works. You know, apart from your phone, you can turn off Bluetooth. You can walk away from your phone. The program runs separately from the app, which is great.
Hmm.
And
And yeah, sorry, you were saying.
so you were asking about all the different types of programs that we have. And,
Mm.
because frequencies are everything. And so they have realized that they can make all these different programs and categories. So within the Healy, depending on, what application or what programs you want, some people have access to over 9 million different frequencies inside our program groups. And so the max one that you can get, there's over 220 different
Hmm.
program groups. So yeah, so it's like to all aspects of life, whether it's physical, for your fitness or mental blockages. You could do it for learning. There's ones, that are for stress, and because we said it was FDA cleared in the USA, it's also a class 2 medical device in Australia and Europe. And what does that mean? That disclaimer. So in the USA, the FDA disclaimer is for arthritis and muscle pain due to overexertion. And the class 2 medical device in Australia and the EU is, people, it can benefit people with fibromyalgia, PTSD, anxiety, depression. So, this is, it can, like you say, with the woo, there is woo involved, if you're doing more of the aura
Hmm.
scan and things, but this is a medical device. And, people are seeing extreme results and changes from this
Hmm.
application.
Yep.
One of the, yeah, sorry, go on.
Not only physical and mental, but on spiritual levels as well. We have a lot of information that is written in our DNA and passed through from generation to generation,
Hmm.
epigenetics, right? And
Yeah.
so these are things that we carry, these traumas. Everything within the body physically is manifested typically from an emotional trauma. So, once you start thinking on that level, then that's what these frequencies are doing, is able to remove these blockages, literally, changing the neural networks in your brain and creating, going from like a negative neuroreceptor connection, breaking free from that and creating more positive receptors, so yeah, so there's a lot going on with the Healy, a lot you
Hmm.
can do, a lot of programs.
Interesting. And one of the things that I was seeing on the website was the gold frequency by Dr. Nuno or Dr. Nina. How do you pronounce his name? Is that right? Dr. Nuno Nina or
No, no, Nina, yeah.
Nuno Nina? Okay, got that right. So tell me about what is so special about this gold frequency. Is this one of those first frequencies that came with the time waiver, or has this been updated to match the Healy device, or what's going on with that?
So Nuno Nina created the first 144,000 frequencies within these gold programs. So these
Hmm.
work, on all aspects from removing toxins, for detoxing, for regeneration, for energy, All of these things are within these 144,000 frequencies. And then as as we continued to build, now we have access to all of these other programs that are a little bit more specific. You have skin programs, you have programs for certain organs within your body. Like we've mentioned, everything gives off a very specific frequency. So over time, thousands of tests, hundreds of practitioners, all of these people that have been working on these frequencies to create these programs that are read specifically by that part of the body and speak to that particular part of the body.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
And any of these were inspired by Rife frequencies? Does it have any sort of like involvement?
It does. It is technology continued from Rife.
Okay. I see a lot of devices now. I saw one at the conference. I'm blanking on the name right now. The Biocharger. Did you guys see the Biocharger at the conference?
Which one was that?
It's this big device that so essentially it's a device where like maybe 5 or 7 people can sit around, and it's based on the original. It's got Tesla coils. It's based on the idea of Rife frequencies, and yeah, so they have like a magnetic frequency and an electrical discharge where they can even in even in something as big as a room change like the bioenergetical feel of the room and everyone inside. They were doing some test runs at the conference. That is pretty interesting. So I see a lot of devices right now that are stepping into the whole frequency area, which really gets me happy because I also believe even with the advancements of science and all of these papers, we only know a part of the equation. There are so many things that are just out and beyond our understanding right now on how things work, especially when you look at things like you mentioned, Jenny, epigenetical trauma, and how these things carry on for multiple generations and how you can break that chain, so to say. So now the Healy device, it comes with how many options are there? Because I saw there were four or five options on the website. So how does that work? Is it the same device and different programs, or are those different devices itself?
Yeah. So it's all the same. It's all the same device. It's
Hmm.
always this cute little device.
Yeah.
And it's just based on how many programs or modules you are getting in your apps. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I kind of want to touch base on what you're saying of the other devices that you saw at the conference, because there are many frequency devices out there. And they are all doing exactly what they say, administering the frequencies for a person. But if you think about it as, when somebody goes to start a diet,
Mhm.
not all diets are going to work for an individual. Like a blood type diet might work for somebody over a keto, or,
Mhm.
some people who can't do keto, they're vegans, but all these things don't work. And when it comes to frequencies, not a specific type of frequency is going to work for anybody. So
Mhm.
those other devices that are out there, they're doing what they say. They are providing frequencies, but they are set frequencies. So that's what sets Healy apart, is because inside Healy there is a patented quantum sensor. What is called quantum sensor? It's a noise generator. And so what that's doing, it has the capability of analyzing in real time and then providing the exact frequencies that we need. So whether we're choosing a microcurrent program, so say CJ, we are all super stressed.
Mhm.
We're busy, and so we need to run extreme stress. If we all sat next to each other
Mhm.
and sent the program from our app to our Healy, we can then in real time watch the frequencies being administered to all three of us, but they're not going to be the same, and they will be the same the next time you use it. So it's making the exact specific frequency program that we need in real time. And that is what's
Mhm.
setting Healy above the other frequency devices that are out there, that it's individualized to each of us. And that's why people are seeing the extreme changes so quickly. And that's what's setting Healy far, far, far more advanced and years advanced than other frequency technology that's out there right now.
Hmm. Thanks for making that clear. Now, is the app or the subscription to Healy, is it like a one-time subscription? Is it something that you pay every year, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do have you, depending on the programs that you would like, you pay a one-time price and you get that for life. It's a lifetime price. We also
Hmm.
do have a la carte menu as well. So if you did want a specific program,
Hmm.
then you could add that on as well. So there's
Okay.
lots of different options.
And what price range does Healy start at? So you have to buy the device first and then the app later,
No,
correct?
you buy it, all comes together as one because you're using your own smart device. So you pick the package that you want, and it's a
Hmm.
one-time fee. So we're going about 500 US dollars
Hmm.
to just over 4,000 US dollars for the
Okay.
largest.
So those would be those 144,000 programs.
The 500 would be the initial gold frequencies, the
Hmm.
144,000, right? So then you could, if you wanted a specific program like learning or beauty, skin, something like that, then you could choose off the a la carte menu. Absolutely. The largest one that we have is called the professional.
Hmm.
Like Colette mentioned, it has access to over 220 different programs. Um, and it was initially created for practitioners, right, to be able to help their clients. But now it is available to everyone. You don't need a license to obtain that.
Which one has been your favorite program, like both of you?
Oh,
Oh,
Which
it
one do you
depends on
use
what
every
you're.
day almost?
I tried to use the Deep Cycle All Kidney, the
Hmm.
All Kidney Female program. There is a beautiful woman, Dr. Michelle Patrick, who we've been following, and she does a lot of biohacking with the Healy, and she, works specifically with the Chinese organ clock.
Hmm.
Um, and we have a Healy watch as well that does the same thing. It works with the Chinese organ clock. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, the kidneys are the life force of the body. So I try to use that once a day, but then it just depends on, I create protocols for myself as well for skin, or right now I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so right now I'm using a lot of the immune programs and toxin programs to push that through.
Hmm. What about you, Colette?
so you ask what do you use every day. Well, first
Hmm.
of all, people need to understand how much can you use Healy.
Hmm.
So when it comes to microcurrent, which is via these wristbands or the electrodes, you can only use, depending how healthy a person is, 3 to 4 applications of microcurrent a day. Because it is cellular, it's changing you. So if people are using too much, they will start to notice detox symptoms, migraines, headaches, too much ringing in the ear, dry mouth, because it's cellular. We are mostly water. You're wanting to rehydrate, to rebalance those cells. But then, if you are using the coil, you can still do your 3 to 4 with the microcurrent a day, but run as many of the programs with the coil as you want. So you can truly be biohacking and like pick and choosing and making you a customized frequency lifestyle. And that's what I do. I don't just choose one a day. It depends on the day. I really really love using the microcurrent prior and post my workout, especially before my
Hmm.
workout. I'm always choosing 1 or 2 programs. One specifically is for muscles. It's to send the frequency so my musculoskeletal system, preparing myself, getting the chi, the prana moving within my body and for my muscles. And then when I'm working out, obviously you're not going to work out with cords all around you. You get caught up. So I'm using
Hmm.
my coil. And while we're working out, I can actually tell if a program finishes, because typically a program might be 50 minutes, and some days we're working out an hour and a half. I can tell when the program finishes. So I need to run over to my phone and it's like, we are a battery. Our bodies are batteries, right? So I can tell when the frequency program turns off. I have to run back over and turn my Healy back on for another program. But after I work out, If within the first 20 minutes you apply microcurrent frequencies, so there's two great programs. One is renewal, and the other one is regeneration. I always choose a renewal program that is specifically made for people who have broken bones or, like torn muscles, or people who are extreme athletes. So within the
Hmm.
20 minutes of applying microcurrent frequencies, you'll find a faster recovery rate and or less soreness. So that is specifically working out during the week. These are programs I'm continuously running. But as a mom, there's a program that was gifted to us from the creator Marcus Schmucki, right during the mid-pandemic, and it was called Coherence, and it's a
Hmm.
connection of heart and mind. And when you're running this, I notice, especially a few days into it, it's a constant state of zen, of peace, of inner peace. And we are hosting monthly Zooms of where, well, obviously we max out the Zoom, so 1,000 people around the world,
Hmm.
all running coherence and meditating for an hour. And so if you think of, how the quantum entanglement in the web, and all of us are being, pulled together at one time, meditating and running a frequency program for coherence to be globally attaching and
Hmm.
connecting to raise this vibration. So, I mean, like we said, there's so many frequencies, and it just depends on the week where I am personally, where I am mentally, of what type of programs that I'm running. The ones that have truly shifted me
Hmm.
um, have been in the mental programs. The mental well-being is one that helps break down emotional blockages, and that's something for me of my life, things that have held me back, that it's just like broken down like
Gone.
there.
Yeah. Super
It's
interesting. I
also
mean,
just before it's also fair to say too, because a lot of people do get intimidated, when they first get their Healy. I don't know what to run,
hmm.
but we do have the models, the professional model as well as the resonance model. They both have the scanning apps, so the scanning capabilities, so the analysis, the resonance analysis, as well as the aura analysis. We also have a new
Hmm.
coaching module as well. And so you can scan your body. You can use these analysis apps to scan your body and have it tell you what you're
It's
most
needed.
in need of, right? So you can start there as well. Once you start to use it more and more, you find that your intuition within your own body really, really heightens. And I usually scan myself maybe once a week now. When I first got it, I was just obsessed with it, and I would scan every day, every single program. Um,
How long does it take you to scan yourself for the average user?
just a few minutes. It's
Okay.
once yeah. And I mean, depends. You can, because there's access, like we were saying, to over 9 million frequencies. So there's a lot of databases that you can scan through. So you
Hmm.
can get sucked in for quite a while.
Yeah, I guess it'd probably be the classic Netflix dilemma. You get on and you're excited to see something, but then you have so many options that you get overwhelmed and you don't decide to, or like it wastes a lot of time. But Colette, you said something very interesting about coherence and the heart and the brain. And for a long time, even myself and like everyone else, I thought that the body is always chemical, and this is why pharmaceuticals do that great, because you introduce a few chemicals and then you alter physiology. But then we also understand that the body has an electrical field, a magnetic field, and there's been so many, like this part talking about that, the electromagnetic field. But it's not just the body. The brain has its own electromagnetic field. The heart has its own electric magnetic field, and the gut also has its own electromagnetic field. Now, there's the Heart Math Institute has done a lot of studies on coherence, but I just wanted you to talk to us about like what is coherence and what is this heart brain connection that a lot of people are missing, especially in today's world.
Well, and like you were talking about like the gut brain, and that is where I was before Healy. That's was my like passion of educating people of how powerful your second brain, your gut is. I
Hmm.
wasn't even aware of the third brain, the heart. But your heart actually, like the frequency of your heart, it extends 3 feet within itself. you know. And
Hmm.
so like if someone walks into the room, you know, either someone you're gonna like turn your head and be amazed by this person walking in, or you're gonna feel the tenseness of someone. That, I mean, that is someone's own vibration, frequency that is attracting or deflecting you from that person.
Hmm.
And so this is why, you know, the coherence is because we're programmed, you know, from such a young age, especially, you know, nowadays. You know, you think of, I mean, I mean, me as myself as a child, how much I used to spend outdoors, you know, climbing trees, hiking, and all these things. And nowadays, like, you drive down the street from where I live, I never see children playing outside. I never see children riding their bikes. We are so programmed in such a different way that it is chemically changing the from our brain, you know. And so then that is affecting, you know, what is going, you know, we need to make sure we have these pathways connected.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And this is one of the things which are very interesting. And I want everyone to understand that, you've got three brains. One is your brain, one is your heart brain, one is your gut brain. And all of these different brains are constantly in communication with each other. But normally we would just think, oh, our mind, our logical mind, or the analytical mind is like ruling it all. But when you see, our heart actually has 40,000 cardiac neurons, which are always, generating this electrical component, which is at least 60 times greater. Or like, there was even showing some studies where the heart's electromagnetic field is about 5,000 times more than the brain's. So what it means is that, like Colette mentioned, you get into a room and sometimes you'll see a person and that brings a smile to your face, or you feel their energy and you become vibrant because their electromagnetic field is so dominant that it overpowers everyone else's. But the opposite is true as well. Sometimes you get into the room and someone's electromagnetic field is so dominant and they're either angry or nervous or upset, and you suddenly start getting closed up, and you're like, why is that happening? It's because it's it's all about emotions and energy. And in this podcast, you guys would have understood that it's all about frequency. So I want everyone to know that if you have an emotion, even if it's, you're angry or nervous, that has a very big impact on not only yourself but the people next to you. Now we're talking about random people, but think about the impact that it has on your loved ones, kids, on your parents, on your best friend. So we live in a culture where we try to hide our emotions, or like have like a have like a fake face, so to say, so the other people do not understand what's going on. But biologically, we're all connected to each other, and science is just showing this right now, that yes, your heart's electromagnetic field can be felt in 3 or 4 feet, and they also know that it turns in a specific direction. So have more love, have more understanding, have more patience. This is what we need in this world right now. And even the gut, like, I'm surprised sometimes when uh, I'm nervous about something or anxious about something. Even before my brain like gets to it, my tummy gets to it first. And most of the people, like, you talk about love and first sight and butterflies in the tummy, and that's all happening because there is also another brain that is responsible for so many things. Let only be the release of hormones that it really gets its fame from. But there's so much of communication happening through the vagus nerve and all the 100 million neurons or whatever they have in the gut. And sometimes some of this information is even picked up faster than the eye. So sometimes things happen in your environment, either it's your mitochondria or either something that's noticing it, and you get to understand it like a millionth of a second before your eye registers it and puts it to the brain. So in saying all of that, I want everyone who's listening to the show to have an open mind on everything you hear, because it's very easy to disregard things. And these things are not new. Like, we spoke over some research start in microcurrents starting from the 1980s or 70s. But this goes back in ancient traditions for a very long time. All the tribal people would have told you what we're just confirming with science right now. They did not have double-blinded placebo-controlled trials, but they knew what was going on, and we just finding that all of those things are, coming to a whole. And you also mentioned about this quantum entanglement, which is also, every time the word quantum comes in, people get a bit confused. So can any of you like just describe what quantum entanglement is in a nutshell?
So, like you were mentioning with coherence, and we are all emotional beings. We're all, every emotion and thought that you have gives off a very specific frequency, which creates a chemical within your body. This is how our bodies are produced. So when you're thinking in that terms, when I said before that every second, 800,000 cells are being reproduced, all by the thoughts that you're giving off. So, when you're everything that you think, whether it's negative or positive, that is being put out into the world. That is what we're walking around when you think about somebody and then they call you, that is resonant frequencies. This is the quantum entanglement that we're speaking of. There is no, like you said, there's no difference between you and I. Even though you're in Dubai and we're here in Fort Lauderdale, we are all connected. Everything is connected. So when you think about it like that, and you practice, and it is a practice, to readjust your way of thinking. Um, when the law of attraction became popular, or all of these things, that's all like quantum physics. Everything within that is quantum physics. So, you know, once you practice living your life more coherently and coming from a place of love, then you will notice the difference. You will physically see the difference within yourself and the people around you. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's when people think woo woo, they think magic, but it is like this is the magic of who we are as humanity, and we have all of the everything within inside of us to be able to support that and bring more coherence within the world and love.
And I absolutely love your Zoom calls and how you're meditating, all of you guys, over 1,000 people together. That sounds amazing. And from the listeners and from me, thank you for doing that. That is something that we need in the world. And for anyone who's listening, and you might be thinking, why is everyone doing it at the same time? It also ties in into the principle of quantum entanglement, and knowing that when you're connected in some way, or even not just us, any matter or any particle is connected in some way, then it doesn't matter where you are, but all of that results into the same energy field, and like the whole energy field increases. I think there were some peace groups back in the 90s that did with something similar, where they were meditating for world peace. And every time they did that, they saw, like, especially when they were doing it in some countries like Lebanon, like the violence went down up to 75%. I mean, I don't quote me on that number, but like around 60 to 75%, something like that. So there is a very big power when people come together. And if anyone who's listening has ever meditated, try meditating it with like three more people in the room. You will see the shift of energy when people come together and they're meditating either for the same thing, or either with the same coherent um, mind. And that really makes a difference. Ladies, thank you so much for all of that information. I think we've completely um, educated people in the best way possible, and not just overwhelmed people, because that is the problem. I feel that when people don't understand about some things, you can educate them, but there's a fine line where it becomes too overwhelming, and it just burdens the brain so much, and they don't absorb any of the information. And thank you again for coming up for this podcast. If anyone wanted to find out more about you, about Healy, about your company, what's the best way to reach you guys? Because after this podcast, I'm sure a lot of people will be texting me, or a lot of people might just like try to get onto your Instagram and understand what Healy's more about. So let's give them a place to go.
Yes, we have our own website. It's Biohacking with Frequencies. Super easy
Hmm.
to remember.
Yep.
And same with our Instagram and Facebook. It is biohacking dot with dot frequencies.
Hmm.
You can find all of us there. You can communicate with us there. It is the best way. And then, we can further educate people and share our love of what Healy does.
And can we buy the device off your website?
So, Healy is a global company. I think we're in over
Hmm.
49 countries. I do not believe that Dubai is on that list at the moment, but there
Hmm.
are ways that we can facilitate
Yeah.
to make it for you.
Yeah, a lot of my listeners especially, they'd have some kind of an address in the US that they normally ship a lot of things to, and then they get it to Dubai. So sometimes some of the products don't directly ship to Dubai, but I know people always have ways of getting things when they really require it. But just to purchase it, they can get onto your website and purchase it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. On our website, we have our own personal shop links. Healy, we are independent business owners of Healy. So
Hmm.
Healy is a global company, but we have our
Yeah.
own with our own Healy shop, so people can directly go to our Biohacking Your Frequencies website and shop from us. And
Hmm.
the apps are available in multiple, either if you're in Google or Apple, you can
Yeah.
get them worldwide. It's not restricted per country. It's not available.
Oh, that sounds good. So biohackingwithfrequencies.com, everyone who's listening, head over there. If you were curious about this, if you think this deserves attention, then go over there, find out. And if you decided to buy it, go through that website itself. And again, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out, doing what you're doing, going in this journey of education. I know it, I'm on the same journey, and it is not as easy as it looks like. It takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of motivation, determination. And the energy part of it, I think you guys are wearing Healy, so you figured that out. But but yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And I really appreciate all that you guys have done.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
And And this is me, CJ, signing out from the Shift with CJ podcast. Everyone, have a great day, have a great month, have a great year, have a great lifetime ahead of you, and be open to frequencies because everything is